Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be giving a speech on why it's important to foster. Now every year, millions of dogs and cats are waiting in a shelter when they could be safe and sound in a home under foster care. Now the shelter animal count states that approximately 6.5 million animals enter U.S. shelters annually. And a lot of these shelters just cannot provide for these animals long term. Now I've spent some time researching data on shelters as well as fostering program statistics to better understand why fostering is important and why so many shelters are having a hard time fostering out animals. Now, even if you don't adopt an animal permanently, fostering an animal makes a great impact because you're freeing up space in the shelter for more animals to come in. You're also creating less stress in the overpopulated shelters, which also helps provide better adoption outcomes. So just a simple yes to a foster prolongs this animal's life to get them to a point where they can get adopted permanently. So today I'm going to be explaining the seriousness of overcrowding, and then I'm going to talk about some big reasons why people do not want to foster, as well as talk about some solutions that communities and shelters can implement. So first off, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in these shelters in the U.S. Now, that statistic that I gave you, the 6.5 million animals that enter U.S. shelters, they stay in these shelters for extended periods of time. The ASPCA states that the influx of animals in does not match the amount of animals going out, meaning there's tons of animals coming in shelters, but there's not enough animals being adopted out. Now this leads to a population pressure, which causes the overcrowding. So Pet Radar reports that approximately 920,000 animals get euthanized every year. And that's due to lack of space and lack of resources. So these overcrowded kennels increase stress, illness, and behavior problems, which in the long run create barriers when it's time to adopt these animals out. People simply do not want dogs with behavioral issues. Now, shelter animal counts research shows that foster-based organizations have a better adoption rates, about 75% higher chances of adopting out than your traditional animal shelters. Unfortunately, these shelters do not have enough foster homes to keep the population down. So now that we understand how serious overcrowding of a shelter can be, let's talk about the big factors of why people don't want to foster. Now, there's several major causes that prevent people from wanting to foster. One is the emotional attachment. Most people do not want to go through the emotional attachment of fostering a animal and then only to see it go. The other part is they don't understand that it doesn't require so much time and money. The assumption is that they're going to have to dish out money for pet supplies, for veterinary care, and for food. Well, many of these shelters provide assistance to fostering parents, meaning they'll provide these things to fostering families, I guess to encourage them to foster. Now, according to AP News, some shelters struggle financially. Even our local animal shelter, Palm Valley Animal Society, they're a nonprofit organization. So they don't make a whole lot of money. And I think sometimes people see that and just assume that they're not going to be able to provide them with any assistance when it comes time to foster an animal. And the other big factor is just limited awareness when it comes to fostering. People just don't understand how the fostering process works, how to sign up. They don't understand what short-term fostering is or that it even exists. Now, I was just mentioning the Palm Valley Animal Society, which is a shelter here in Edinburgh. Now, if you went in there, they have many pamphlets and they can walk you through how the fostering process works. I have fostered a cat before, which ended up becoming a permanent animal in my home. So there's lots of resources available to you, as well as care when it comes to these animals. You don't take the animal home and foster, and it's just up to you to figure everything out. There's resources for you. So the 2025 State of Pet Adoption report shows that foster participation has declined, mostly because of low outreach and visibility. Meaning, like I said earlier, people are just not aware of how to foster, and the shelters are not providing that to them. So now that we know the causes of the fostering shortage, let's talk about realistic solutions. So the first thing we can do is improve education and outreach. So like our local shelter is doing a great job of providing these pamphlets to the people. They're showing up on social media, which is something that shelters can do social media posts, have facts and explain how fostering works and what is offered if they need the support. And then, another thing they can do to encourage people to foster is show the success stories. Many people want to know that when they foster an animal, that they are bridging that gap to a permanent home, or maybe that they can eventually adopt that animal when it comes time. There's also flexible options that shelters and communities should be promoting. Programs about weekend fostering, 1 week trial fosters, or just kitten care rotations. And that's just simply helping these animals transition through that period before they find a permanent home. Now, this will strengthen shelters not only because they relieve pressure off of the actual facility, but they help find potential homes faster. Now, they also can offer starter kits with food, toys, and crates and supplies, often from donations and partnerships. Like I mentioned earlier, some of these shelters are nonprofit organizations. They're not like a corporation or some kind of well-run business that is creating things for animals. They are solely based off of what people can donate and what the city is able to give them in order to stay afloat. So online groups or mentor systems give fosters guidance and emotional reinforcement during challenging moments. So there's also that support as well. So if you're fostering an animal and you're just looking for some kind of support, they can provide those online sources for you. So as we look at the impact of how one temporary home can make it possible for an animal to get adopted, let's go back to what we talked about to begin. So one thing we know, that fostering does save lives. Many people hesitate due to the emotional stress, the emotional toll of having to give an animal back. But through awareness and support and flexible options, it can be done. So today I talked about the seriousness of overcrowding in shelters. I talked about the main factors of why people are reluctant to foster. And then I covered some areas that communities and shelters can implement to have better outreach and visibility, which helps promote fostering. So whether you personally take in an animal, help run a donation drive, or simply share an adoptable pet online, you can directly help shelters keep these animals alive and help them find homes. So a foster home may not be the permanent home for that pet, but it definitely bridges that gap to get them there. And even a few weeks can give an animal multiple opportunities and increase their life expectancy, as well as providing a family with a great animal. Thank you very much.